During an expedition, 4 young dragon trainers discover the existence of new hidden realms and must prevent this secret from being discovered by mankind. Today we're going to recap the 3rd and 4th seasons of the series, Dragons, the 9 Realms, from 2022. After discovering that his ancestors were dragon trainers, Tom decides to enter the Fire Realm to investigate and wears a fired suit to protect himself. However, the suit doesn't work properly and the young man needs the help of his friends to put out the fire. That afternoon, the group returns to the camp at the top of the mountain and Tom decides to use a fire dragon to test the other prototypes of the suit. Upon hearing this, Alexandra and D'Angelo say that this is a bad idea, but the young man chooses to take a chance and uses some fish as bait to attract the creature. After feeding, the beast becomes enraged and Thunder approaches to defend Tom. However, the dragon decides to attack them and spreads its flames everywhere before returning to the Fire Realm. A few hours later, the group decides to make a second attempt and, once again, Tom uses the fish to try to bribe the dragon. Despite this, the animal doesn't want to cooperate with him and once again attacks the young man. Luckily, Thunder manages to rescue him in time and, when the fire dragon leaves, Tom realizes that the costume hasn't passed the flame test. Soon afterwards, the animal returns and attacks his enemies, so Tom realizes that trying to bribe it is not a good idea and decides to try to make friends with it. When he realizes that the humans are not a threat, the fire dragon decides to approach Tom and allows the young man to stroke him. Minutes later, the creature begins to make friends with all the members of the group, but the problem begins when it decides to leave the cave and ends up in the outside world. To prevent humans from discovering the existence of dragons, Tom and his friends decide to go after him. While flying over the forest, the group realizes that the creature is heading straight for the Ikari's base and, to try to stop it, Tom jumps on the animal's back. Frightened, the dragon sets fire to his own body and the young man goes up in flames too. Terrified, his friends try to save him, but soon realize that Tom hasn't been hurt. After reassuring the creature, he manages to convince it to return home and the group flies towards the cave. At this point, the teenagers try to figure out why Tom hasn't turned into a barbecue and Alexandra realizes that the gel released by the dragon becomes fireproof when it dries. After this discovery, the young woman decides to use it as glue to join all the parts of the suit together, so that Tom can enter the Fire Realm without suffering any burns. With Alexandra's help, Tom finally manages to acquire a 100% fireproof suit. As the group already has 2 suits, Jun is chosen to accompany Tom on this adventure and they are both enchanted by the beauty of the place. During their tour of the Fire Realm, the pair come across a war shield, which indicates that other people have been there before. Suddenly, Jun hears a strange noise and, looking through her binoculars, realizes that a dragon from the Crystal Realm is in trouble. It seems that the little dragon got lost and ended up in the Fire Realm by mistake, so Tom and Jun decide to rescue him. While Thunder distracts the predators, Jun grabs the baby and tries to escape. Tom is then surrounded by flamethrower dragons and has to use his shield to protect himself. After a few minutes on the run, the young man realizes that he will have to face the predators and Thunder attacks them with his lightning. The pair then fly away, but the flamethrowers continue the chase and manage to bring them down. Seeing his friends injured, Jun decides to help them and asks Wu and Wei to attack the fire dragons. Immediately, the creatures move away and the group decides to rest before returning home. When she discovers that Tom has lost his shield, Jun decides to try to get it back and sets off alone through the hostile realm to find it. When he realizes that his friend has disappeared, Tom immediately sets out to find her and, once again, they are chased by flamethrowers. During the search, the young man ends up being surrounded, but is saved by Jun, who uses the light reflected by the shield to throw off the predators. Suddenly, the group heard a loud roar and quickly flew back to the Crystal Realm, taking the dragon baby with them. The following week, Alexandra manages to create 2 more fire suits and the team decides to explore the Fire Realm. During the tour, they come across thousands of mini fire dragons flying together like a flock of birds. After this adventure, the teenagers decide to return home and one of these little dragons hides in Alexandra's bag. Finding the little dragon, after capturing it, Carla presents the animal to her wife and claims that it is a rare species of lizard, so she decides to take it to the laboratory. That afternoon, Alexandra tells her friends what happened and the group decides to rescue the dragon before Carla finds out what it really is. With Jun's help, the young woman breaks into the laboratory and discovers that the dragon's flame is dying out, as the species needs the warmth of its flock to survive. Then, when the 2 scientists leave the laboratory, the pair take the dragon outside. However, Jun's brother suddenly appears and steals the aquarium where the creature is. When he realizes that the animal is a mini dragon, Eugene decides to take it to his mother. However, Jun knows how to talk him out of it and claims that the little thing attracts bad luck in money and love. Upon hearing this, Eugene returns the dragon to his sister, but before the girls can take it back to the gang, Linda appears and takes the animal to Wilmus' laboratory. To rescue him, Alexandra breaks into the base's security system and sets off the alarm. When all the scientists have left the building, Feathers springs into action and rescues the mini dragon from the laboratory. The girls quickly take the little one back to the cave, but he seems to be eliminated. Suddenly, 2 other dragons of his species approach and use their body heat to warm him up. At this point, the creature wakes up and accompanies his friends back home. Later, while flying over the Crystal Realm, D'Angelo and his friends notice the presence of dragons from the Fire Realm and realize that they are not well. After devouring the crystals, the creatures put everything away, but then eat again, which leaves the youngsters puzzled. After a brief analysis, D'Angelo realizes that the crystals are harming the animals, as they are used to eating volcanic rocks. In an attempt to get them back to the Fire Realm, the group decides to fetch some volcanic rocks to use as bait to attract the dragons. But instead of attracting them with food, all D'Angelo managed to do was make them agitated. At that moment, Plowhorn takes the young man back to the Fire Realm and the rest of the team accompanies them. When they get there, they discover that the rock is actually a dragon's egg and D'Angelo feels guilty for stealing the eggs. Soon after, the mother of the babies appears and she is furious. As the dragon is very slow, the group manages to escape, but D'Angelo feels worse and worse. Frustrated, the young man gives the last surviving egg to his friends and asks them to return it. After saying goodbye to Plowhorn, he returns to camp while Tom and the rest of the team decide to use the egg as bait to lure the dragons back to the Fire Realm. Luckily, his plan goes as planned and the creatures calm down after finding the volcanic rocks. Now, the next challenge will be to return that egg, because when she realizes who has devoured them, the mother dragon decides to seek revenge. Furious, she rolls towards the other dragons and Alexandra decides to go after D'Angelo, believing that only he will know how to calm the situation. Although he considers himself a fraud because of the mistake he made, the young man decides to try to make things right and takes some crystals for the fire dragons to eat. In doing so, the animals put the eggs they devoured outside and D'Angelo manages to return them to the dragon mother. After making up for his mistake, the team returns home and the teenager regains his confidence as a dragon trainer. The next morning, while the youngsters and their dragons are having fun in the cave, Thunder notices the presence of an intruder and all the dragons join forces to search the area. During the search, Feathers meets Eugene and the young man, who already suspected the existence of dragons, is able to confirm his theory. Furious, Jun orders her brother to leave, but now the man also wants to become a dragon trainer. At that moment, the young girl meets up with her friends to decide what to do with him, because she is afraid that Eugene will tell the adults about the cave. To prevent this from happening, Tom decides to accept the young man into his group, but to do so Eugene must be chosen by a dragon. If no dragon wants to join him, Eugene will have to go back to camp and will never be able to tell anyone about the existence of these creatures. After a few minutes flying over the Crystal Realm, the youngsters spot a dragon taking a nap and Eugene decides to ride it. However, the young man doesn't follow his friend's advice and ends up being thrown far away. After a few failed attempts, Eugene realizes that this coaching thing is a lot harder than he thought. Suddenly, the group hears some cries for help and realizes that the mini dragons are in danger. The little ones are being surrounded by flamethrowers, so the youngsters team up to take them back to the Fire Realm. After saving another little dragon that was in trouble, Alexandra and his friends realized that the sensor indicated a new invasion and decided to go and investigate. Upon arriving at the indicated location, Tom realizes that there is a shortcut linking the Fire Realm to the Crystal Realm and decides to close that passage to stop the invasion. Meanwhile, Jun and Eugene need to escape from the flamethrower dragons as they are being chased. During their escape, they come across an 8-legged dragon and realize that it too is in trouble. When the animal is about to be barbecued, Eugene uses Jun's shield to protect it and wins the animal's trust. After getting rid of the enemy, the two siblings go to meet the rest of the team and help them drive the flamethrowers back to the Fire Realm. After that, Eugene and his dragon manage to block the passage, preventing the predators from returning to the Crystal Realm. Having been chosen by a dragon, Eugene ends up being accepted as a member of the club and celebrates his victory with his new friend. The team's next mission is to forge a sword to go with the shield Tom has found, and to do this they'll need the help of the lava-spitting dragon. However, on approaching the animal, D'Angelo realizes that there is something wrong with it and the group decides to take it back to the camp. As the animal is very ill, it can't fly to the top of the hill on its own, so Tom and his friends have to help it. While Eugene keeps an eye on the dragons, the rest of the team takes the sick animal to the infirmary and D'Angelo manages to remove the crystal that was blocking the lava passage. However, when they do this, they discover that the crystal, as well as preventing the creature from expelling the lava, has also caused its body to stop producing it. Because of this, the animal has become unable to heat its own body and D'Angelo decides to take it to the fire realm, as this is the only way to keep it alive. When he gets there, the dragon manages to recover and starts spewing lava again, so to complete the mission, Tom manages to forge his new sword. That night, the young man has a frightening nightmare and begins to believe that the Fault Ripper may still be alive. So he decides to go out and look for him, but his plan is interrupted when Alexandra reveals that the Crystal Realm's sensors are going off. Going out to investigate, the team discovers that the shortcut between the Fire Realm and the Crystal Realm has been opened and suddenly a giant dragon appears. At that moment, the group realizes that the flamethrowers are the big man's henchmen and the youngsters have to flee, because that animal is extremely powerful. On his own, he has managed to scare away all the dragons in the Crystal Realm and Tom begins to think of a way to get that monster back to the Fire Realm. Knowing that he won't be able to stop it, Tom decides to go after the Fault Ripper, because he believes that only he can scare it away. Concerned for her friend, Jun decides to accompany him and they both descend to the bottom of the fissure. After entering a cave, Tom manages to find the Fault Ripper dragon and is relieved to discover that it didn't perish in the crash. His next challenge will be to convince the beast to expel the invader from the Crystal Realm, but instead the monster attacks him. Even so, Tom doesn't give up trying to make peace with the creature and asks for forgiveness for what happened the last time they met. After connecting with the animal and showing that it is not his enemy, the young man manages to convince it to help. While the Fault Ripper drains all the lava, Tom and his friends distract the big guy, but end up being cornered. Just as the group was about to be burned alive, the Fault Ripper and other dragons from the Crystal Realm appeared to attack their adversary. Feeling trapped, the White Dragon decides to leave and the Fault Ripper opens a passage so that he can return to the Fire Realm with the flamethrowers. After closing all the passages, the youngsters find a hidden chamber and, inside, Tom finds an ancient scroll. The problem is that no one knows how to open it and Tom becomes completely obsessed with finding out what's inside. In an attempt to help him cool off, Jun convinces her friend to investigate a new crater that Alexandra has found and the trio end up finding an underground world full of ice. While having fun in his new realm, Thunder finds a fish in the snow and, while trying to feed it, ends up being captured. Seeing the dragon, Leonard remembers that it was he who destroyed his lumber mill and plans his revenge, but Thunder soon manages to free himself and goes to meet his friends. When he sees the rope tied to the dragon, Tom realizes that there is someone else down there and decides to go down to investigate. At that moment, he spots Leonard and the man pretends to be frightened, saying that he fell there by mistake during a walk. Believing that the young man is on holiday, Jun goes after D'Angelo, but Alexandra realizes that Thunder is not comfortable with Leonard's presence and begins to suspect him. Minutes later, Jun finds D'Angelo and her brother and tells them what happened. When he finds out that Leonard is with his friends, Eugene reveals that he knows this guy and claims that he's a big problem. Immediately, the trio flies to the Ice Realm to warn the rest of the team, but by then, Tom and Alexandra have already managed to unmask Leonard. With her sonic scream, Feathers sends him away, but she ends up causing a landslide and his friends are trapped under large sheets of ice. At this point, Leonard takes the opportunity to attack them with his hatchet, but is stopped by Plowhorn, who shoots him away. When he realizes he's outnumbered, the man decides to run away and the youngsters can't find him. The next morning, Tom and his friends decide to go to the Ice Realm again to look for Leonard and end up getting caught in a snowstorm. When Alexandra and Eugene go off to call their friends to leave, Webmaster and Feathers end up getting lost and the group has to leave without them because it's almost curfew time. Worried about her friend, Alexandra can't sleep and Eugene decides to join her, as he is also very worried about his dragon. Together, they decide to go after their friends and, to do so, they have to go down to the bottom of the fissure. As they are without their dragons, the pair have to use a rope to reach the bottom, but they both end up slipping. Luckily, Wu and Wei arrive in time to save them and Tom apologizes for having chosen to abandon Webmaster and Feathers just below. In an attempt to right this wrong, the group decides to go to the Ice Realm to help Eugene and Alexandra find their friends. During their search, the youngsters hear the cries of dragons and find them in a cave, along with a large snow monster. Seeing their friends, Feathers and Webmaster try to fly towards them, but their feet are stuck in the ground. While Tom distracts the enemy, Wu melts the ice to free the dragons and then the team will help Thunder defeat the monster. After losing him, everyone flies out of the cave and the dragons finally manage to return together to the Crystal Realm. That night, after several days of trying to open the scroll box, Tom finally manages to discover the key and finds the book that was hidden inside. The next morning, while trying to read the book with his friends, the young man discovers that it is written in an ancient language and asks Jun to help him unravel it. However, the young girl is worried about her dragons, as they don't seem to be doing well. While Jun tries to find out what's wrong, Wu and Wei decide to take her to the top of a mountain. To reach this goal, the group has to climb the snow, as the strong wind prevents them from flying to their final destination. When they get there, the youngsters come across a huge two-headed dragon, identical to the one described in the book Tom found. When they spot the creature, Wu and Wei walk towards it and are captured by it. Believing that his friends are in danger, Tom and the rest of the team decide to intervene, but Jun realizes that Wu and Wei are calm and orders them all to stop attacking the Dragon King. At that moment, the Big One puts the pair inside the volcano and uses his fiery breath to warm them up. After leaving, Wu and Wei feel refreshed and the youngsters discover that there are several two-headed dragons living there. That afternoon, the teenagers return to camp and Alexandra informs them that the sensors they installed in the Ice Realm have just been activated. Immediately, the group flies to the location and D'Angelo frees a small dragon that was trapped in a trap created by Leonard. During an investigation, the team finds the man's hideout and comes across countless cages made of ice, where he is imprisoning the dragons he captures. Suddenly, the man appears with a whistle that he uses to imitate dragons. In this way, he manages to control them and orders one of the animals to attack the youngsters. In order not to hurt him, Tom and his friends decide to run away instead of attacking the animal, as they know that he too is just a victim of Leonard. Since it's tied up, the creature can't follow them and Tom realizes that the only way to save the dragons is to steal that whistle. However, the young man ends up being tricked and, as he picks up the object, a huge ice grid falls on top of him. Now that he's trapped, Tom realizes that the object Leonard used as bait is a fake and Thunder can't help him escape. Minutes later, Eugene and the rest of the team realize that their friends are taking too long to return and decide to go after him. Meanwhile, Tom manages to convince Leonard to release him on the promise that he will teach him how to fly a dragon. During the flight, the young man tries to steal the whistle and, meanwhile, his friends arrive at the hideout. Seeing Thunder trapped, Jun rushes to free him and, when he hears the cry of the dragons, Leonard realizes that he has been tricked. Furious, he pushes Tom down and, during the fall, Thunder manages to save him. Leonard then manages to climb down, but when he blows the whistle, he realizes that the object makes no sound. The truth is that, during the flight, Tom managed to swap the real whistle for the fake one and freed the dragon that was being controlled by the man. Soon after, the young man helps his friends free the other dragons and, once again, they lose sight of Leonard. After destroying all the cages, Tom finds a baby of the same species as Thunder and decides to take the little one back to the cave so that D'Angelo can examine it. When they meet the baby, everyone is impressed by its cuteness and decides to name it Shadow. However, it's not long before the youngsters realize that he's a big troublemaker and decide to take him back home. When he returns to the Ice Realm, the team follows the dragon into a cave and Tom finds an ancient chest. Believing that there is a treasure hidden inside, Eugene decides to open it and ends up falling into a trap. While the young man is trapped, several rocks begin to slide down from the hills and the group decides to flee to avoid being hit. After freeing Eugene, Jun and her friends run to the bottom of the cave. During their escape, they lose sight of Shadow and have to search for him, only to discover that there are other dragons from the Thunder family hiding there. It doesn't take long for Tom and his team to gain the trust of the animals, but when they meet the leader of the gang, the teenagers are attacked and realize that humans are not welcome there. So the group decides to leave and Tom says goodbye to Thunder, as he thinks he should stay with his family. While the young man returns home saddened, Olivia, his mother, checks some footage Tom has taken with his drone and notices suspicious activity taking place in a cave near the camp. When they were about to leave the Ice Realm, the teenagers spotted Shadow and realized that the little one was scared, so they decided to return to find out what was going on. When they get there, the group discovers that all the dragons have disappeared and they decide to start an investigation. After entering a small cave, they find a picture of a family carved into the wall and Tom realizes that those people are the same ones drawn in his book. Just then, the young man hears Thunder's screams and manages to find him. Apparently, something has attacked them, but Thunder and his family are fine. When he sees the humans, the leader expels them again and, before leaving, the group is attacked by a huge white dragon. When he realizes that Tom is in danger, Thunder returns to protect him and the youngsters must flee to avoid being devoured. While their friends are hiding, Tom and Thunder go to meet the predator to stop it from hurting the other dragons. The pair then lure it into the cave and use the traps to defeat it. After being hit by a tranquilizer dart, the creature faints, but soon after, another monster appears to rescue its partner. After being shot, Tom and Thunder faint and the predators manage to escape. Seeing the enemies approaching, Wu and Wei produce a mist to throw them off and try to sneak away. However, it doesn't take long for the snow dragons to find them and, just as Eugene and his team were about to be attacked, Tom appears riding the leader of the pack. The young man uses his sword to direct the dragon's rays and manages to defeat one of them. However, it isn't long before the monster manages to get up and, once again, the young man is chased. When he was about to be captured, Thunder appeared to save him and the two dragons concentrated all their power into one sword so that Tom could attack the enemy. After being struck by the powerful lightning, the creatures give up the battle and decide to leave. After saving the whole family from dragons, Tom and his friends prove that they are not a threat and manage to make peace with them. Seeing his best friend leave, Thunder realizes that he doesn't want to be left behind and decides to come back with him, as he discovers that this is his real family. That night, the team returns home, but when they arrive at the cave, Tom runs into his mother and soon realizes that he's in a lot of trouble.